Hi, I'm Richard Buchar, and welcome to my webinar. Today I will be presenting whether or not Frankenstein is an homage or a warning to modern scientists. To begin, the novel Frankenstein is about Victor Frankenstein, a scientist in the 18th century that creates a monster with old body parts and creates the first artificial life. Once the monster is created, he is horrified by it and rejects it. The monster asks Victor to create a female friend, but Victor denies out of fear of the creatures reproducing and ending humanity. Once being rejected, the monster goes into a stage of depression and kills many of his creators, family, and friends. At the end of Frankenstein, Frankenstein dies in search of the monster. So why is it an homage as well as a warning? It's an homage to modern scientists because Victor Frankenstein does something that has never been done before, by creating artificial life. It is also a warning, for there are many unpredicted consequences that arise from the creation of the monster. It shows us all the possibilities that science could accomplish in the future. I'm going to talk about some of the benefits and negative consequences that such as cloning humans, animals, plants, and organs. So, to begin, cloning can be used in many different beneficial ways, such as medical research. So, to begin, cloning is a great way to understand diseases and animals so that we can apply them to humans while saving resources. On the information site of the University of Utah, Why Should We Clone was discussed. The research of diseases are tested on mice. This happens regardless if there is cloning or not. But what cloning does is that it saves time, money, and lives of many animals. In this case, it's mice. By adding the disease gene in their DNA right away, so that they don't have to spend time breeding many generations of mice to get the effect of a fully functional disease. Some people say that medical studies on mice are unethical, but what cloning does is that it makes testing more ethical because we do not kill as many mice with the disease. Secondly, cloning of animals can be used in the farm. For example, farmers could select the cow that makes the most amount of milk, and that cow could then reproduce with a bull from a high-yield dairy herd to increase milk production. In this example, cloning gives us the ability to copy the DNA from the embryos of the cow and the bull to produce even more cows with high dairy production. In addition, cloning has been used successfully to increase crop yields, resistance to droughts, disease, and reduce growth time. But there are also some risks that need to be considered. These include killing helpful insects to the plant, as well as soil biota. The chemical products produced by the plants could wash up into water streams and affect the ecosystem. Generally speaking, these risks are small compared to the environmental benefits. The U.S. Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN says that GMOs are beneficial because they produce more nutrient-rich food than could have been made without the added genes. Another great use for cloning is the use of stem cells. It can build completely new and healthy organs. A sick patient would give a cell from their body and put it into the outer membrane of an egg cell. This is done so the patient would not reject the new organ. This is similar to many transplants that Frankenstein had done so that the monster could come to life. This is the most ethical form of cloning because it does not involve any other life form except for humans and their body cells. Some additional information could be found on livescience.com. Finally, another great example of cloning is reanimation of extinct species. Cloning today is able to bring back to life extinct species. We are able to bring back to life extinct species to life by reading their DNA and having an egg of an animal with similar ancestors to host the DNA into development. This could help us understand more about previous species and what they were like. Although there are many benefits that come from reanimating extinct species, Some people find it unethical because so far, with trials on extinct species, they have died within a few months of birth. Like in Frankenstein, which had negative outcomes, there are also strong arguments against cloning from an ethical perspective. To begin, cloning farm animals. Cloning for farming purposes is wrong, says American Anti-Vivisection Society. 64% of Americans said that cloning animals is morally wrong. It is morally wrong that these animals are cloned and made to be meat machines or for entertainment purposes. They argue that cloning causes severe animal suffering. Despite years of research, over 95% of cloning attempts fail. Even with extensive veterinary intervention, birth defects, psychological impairments, illness, and premature death continue to be the norm. Problems occur with cloning far more often than any other method of reproduction. Large offspring syndrome, a typical fatal condition associated with a host of abnormalities, occurs in over 55% of cow clones. Hydrops, another typical fatal condition, in which the animal swells with fluid, occurs in 20% of cow clones, but very rarely otherwise. A high rate of late-term pregnancy loss, pregnancy complications, painful labor, and surgical interventions is unique to cloning pregnancies. Clearly, there are issues with cloning. Some other ethical considerations. Should you be allowed to clone yourself? And if so, how? Given the cost, it is likely that cloning would be only available to the very rich. Is this moral or ethical? I don't think so. In addition, the value of human life would change. It is argued that clones would be less valued than a normal person, which could lead to a separation of rights between clones and humans. This could be compared to the way Victor Frankenstein treated the monster, with little respect and disgust. Clearly, there are a lot of issues concerning cloning and are valuable lessons for the scientific community. Scientists must take responsibility for their actions and ensure that what they are doing is moral, ethical, and safe for humanity. To conclude, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is both an homage and a warning to modern scientists. It is an homage to modern scientists because Frankenstein does something that has never been done before: create artificial life. It is a warning to modern scientists, for there are many unpredicted consequences that come from the creation of the monster. Anyway, cloning animals, extinct species, plants, and human organs are the future. However, scientists must act with caution. This is Richard Buchar. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at richard.a.buchar@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Have a good night.